If you're over 40 and trying to lose weight, you've probably noticed that it doesn't work the same way it did in your 20s, right? At least for me in my 20s, I could eat less for a few weeks, went on a bike a couple of times, and the excess weight just melted away. Now at 45, I feel like my body doesn't cooperate anymore. Every workout actually requires a lot more time to recover. And if you get injured, it can take months or even half a year to heal. And even then, it's not the same anymore. Now, I'm 2 weeks into my hopefully final weight loss journey. And I would like to give you a quick update on my progress so far. In these first 14 days, I've actually lost 4.2 kilograms, which is a little bit more than 9 pounds. Now, I managed to do that by creating a deficit between how much I eat and how many calories I actually burn through daily activities and through just existing, right? And one thing that I did to create this deficit was to start working out. You know, this was something that was supposed to help my vitality because I'm stiff, I don't have much muscle mass, and I'm not strong. I feel weak and I believe that I need to do something about that. But on the other hand, I actually don't think that the biggest contributor to my weight loss was working out. It was actually eating less. You see, I've noticed that it's much easier to not consume 500 calories than it is to burn 500 extra calories through working out, you know? And especially because I chose a diet that made me feel less hungry than any other diet that I was on before. This time I was on a low-carb diet and I ate a lot of protein. Well, at least more than I'm used to. And I felt satiated, you know, most of the time, and because of that I was able to consume less. So the main contributor to this weight loss was of course this diet and eating much less than I burn. So on average I consumed 1600 calories per day, while my total daily energy expenditure, which means how much I actually burned, was almost 2900. So a deficit that is actually way too big to sustain, you know? And that's something that you can do for a week, maybe two, but I don't see myself doing this long term, you know? So I'm definitely gonna make some changes. So as I said, I was able to consume so little calories and not be hungry because I increased protein and at the same time I eliminated most of the carbs. I was below 30 grams of carbs per day, which I think is very, very little for someone who is addicted to carbs, you know? Addicted to comfort food, which is usually made of carbs and fat and salt and sugar, right? And there sure were some benefits of this low-carb diet, and the biggest one was probably the constant energy during the day, you know? You see, whenever I was on a regular diet or when I was mostly consuming junk food, I felt like I had no energy at all. I started my day with caffeinated drinks to wake myself up, and then when I got home from work, I was already without any energy. All that I could do was sit on the couch and watch TV. I couldn't play with my kids, even though I wanted to, and I really didn't like that. Now, this low-carb diet actually allowed me to feel constant energy during the day, so I had more energy in the afternoon. Another benefit of this diet is that I felt very little hunger during the day. And this is probably the reason why I was able to eat that little calories, you know? Because I didn't feel hungry. I had no desire for comfort foods. But there was a caveat, you know? The biggest problem is that I don't like the taste and the texture of food that contains no carbs, you know? Foods like pasta, potatoes, rice, and of course my favorite one, which is bread. I can't live without bread, and this was probably the most difficult thing for me these 2 weeks. Now, this meant that I had to eat egg omelette without bread. And even though it made me feel satiated, it also made me feel like throwing up, And that's certainly not something that I could sustain long term. So, going forward, I think that I will be adding a little bit more carbs to my diet so that I don't feel like I'm being punished for eating. However, I'm still gonna try to limit the carb intake, and I'm going to do that through finding other sources of food that would taste similar to potatoes, rice, and bread, And I'm already looking for a recipe on how to make rice out of broccoli. I'm sure that it will not work out, but I think that it's worth trying, But if I can't find substitutes for pasta, rice, potatoes, and bread, then I'm going to eat them anyway and just try to control the portions, I'm also going to up the calorie intake because this deficit is not sustainable long term, and I'm a little bit afraid of going too far and as a result losing too much muscle mass. You see, at 45 it's not easy to build new muscle, but it's very easy to lose it, especially if you don't use it, right? And that's a big problem because long term I want to be able to use my body so that I can live fully. I want to be flexible. I want to be strong, and I want to be capable of moving my body around and playing with my kids and being useful to my family and to society. So I gotta do that. So that's why I really don't want to lose any muscle mass, and that's why I'm going to be careful with my limitations with calorie intake. So if you're on a diet yourself and you're over 40, consider not limiting your calories intake too much, I think that losing around 1% of your weight per week is what we should strive for long term, it's a sweet spot. And that's something that allows us to still enjoy life, but slowly lose weight, I think that's sustainable, and that's probably the best way not to lose any muscle mass. But still, on the other hand, we still have to stay motivated, right? If the weight loss is too slow, the motivation wanes, and we can go back to eating too much. And hopefully this won't happen. Now, what do you think? Do you believe that losing weight fast is the way to go? Or do you believe that you can stay motivated even when losing weight is slow? Let me know in the comment section below. Anyway, my name is Andrei. If you're new here, welcome. It's nice to meet you. And if you're returning, then welcome back and thanks for watching. And I will see you in another video. Bye.